Good evening and welcome to tonight's GamedayU Basketball Show. I'm your host, Elise Jones, and I'm joined here by our first ever all-girls group of analysts, Ashley Vandevelde, Carly Murray, and Kaylee Tingelstad. We're going to be discussing OU's most impressive win, the impact of Alondis Williams' return, and hear the top 5 plays from the last week. But before we move on, let's go back to Saturday when the Sooners beat the Cyclones. In a game a little too close for comfort, Oklahoma spun the Cyclones 79-72. It was the return of Reeves, who put up 16 points with 8 rebounds and 8 assists. Head coach Lon Kruger said this game proves how tough the Sooners are when they're healthy. Oklahoma found themselves with a week off, and it wasn't due to weather. The Sooners were scheduled to take on the Bears last night, but with Baylor postponing games, the Sooners got a snow day. Do you think this week with no games will ultimately help the Sooners since they had time to rest and reset, or will it throw off their momentum? Ashley, we'll start with you.
I think this is going to be a really positive for the Sooners, especially since they lost to Texas Tech. I think that they needed a break. They played so many ranked teams in a row. I think that this will just be a good thing to rest, recharge, kind of get their game plan back.
Yeah, Ashley, I definitely agree because they are facing West Virginia on Saturday. And you know who they just beat? Texas Tech. And that is a really, really solid team. I think this was really good for the Sooners to settle down, regroup, recharge, like you said, and kind of get their head in the game because this won't be an easy game coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say that I would rather have the off week than play Baylor this week. I think Oklahoma needed this time to rest, get Reeves back in the game, and just charge up before they have to go to Morgantown this weekend.
Well, we know Baylor postponing games won't be hurting their spot in the standings. And what's arguably the best conference in the country, the Bears are sitting solid at number 1. They're the only undefeated team in the Big 12. Tied for second are Oklahoma and West Virginia, followed by Texas, Kansas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, TCU, Kansas State, and Iowa State. What do you all think about those rankings right now?
I mean, you've got a ton of competition just in that top 6 right there. So I think it's hard to say that the Big 12 isn't definitely in like the top 2 best conferences in the nation. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. Big 12 is the best conference. I think that there's the competition everywhere. There's no way that anybody can't beat anybody on a given any given day on the Big 12. So I like the rankings. I like where everybody's at.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say we've seen a lot of upsets throughout this conference, and I'm kind of surprised Tech is so low on that.
I was too. Because they're so competitive.
I definitely see West Virginia being up there, but I mean, Kansas 5, Tech 6, that was really surprising to me.
Yeah.
No denying Oklahoma has wins under their belt that were a bit unexpected. So when all is said and done and the season comes to a close, which victory do you think OU fans will look back on and call the most impressive?
Well, it's hard to pick OU. We just talked about how competitive the Big 12 is. They have a lot of great teams that they've played thus far in the season. So many are ranked. But I think OU fans will look back as the most impressive win, number 5, Texas, earlier in the season. The Sooners made their shots with finesse throughout this game. They played really hard. They just, got to the basket, got their ball in. Austin Reeves absolutely went off with 23 points. OU was also able to hold off Texas on the defensive end of the ball, which kept them in the game. OU had to come back a little bit. So I think this was definitely a super impressive win, especially given that Texas was number 5 when OU beat them. I think this game was a huge confidence boost, especially since OU faced Alabama next, who was number 9 at the time. And, when they played someone from a different conference, that can sometimes give teams the jitters, I think, a little bit. But this game, I think, was a big confidence boost, and I think it's really impressive that they were able to beat number 5 and then go and beat number 9.
Yeah, absolutely. I really did like that Texas win. I'm sorry I'm wearing burnt orange. Oh, I'm sorry. But you know what? I think the most impressive win was Oklahoma beating number 9 ranked Kansas. Beating this top 10 Kansas team helped the Sooners gain confidence and momentum, propelling the Sooners to consecutive upsets over top 10 arch rival Texas, followed by another top 10 upset over Alabama. Sophomore Davion Harmon went off that night, scoring 22 points. The Sooners' go-to guy, Austin Reeves, was very slow in the first half, but he scored all of his 16 points in the second half. And Reeves made 10 out of 11 free throws. Just insane. Opponents realize Oklahoma is a very talented team, and they're likely to head to the NCAA tournament.
Well, I'm going to have to agree that beating a number 9 team was impressive, but I'm going to have to go with the Alabama Crimson Tide. At the time, Alabama was ranked 9th and they had a 10-game winning streak. And let's not forget that OU went on without leading scorer Austin Reeves and Alondis Williams. No one thought OU could win that game, but guess what? They did. Davion Harmon stepped up in that game and scored 18 points for the Sooners. Lon Kruger uses this 8 to 9 man rotation and can change up the lineup without losing too much offensively or defensively. One of those players is Elijah Harkless. He's been put in the starting lineup since the past couple of games, and the defense has also jumped by a ton. This defense has been really tough, and we've seen that through the Tech game, and he's just been an elite player for OU, and I think we've done a great job at managing without these top 2 players. But I think the game against Alabama was an amazing game for the Sooners, ranked 9 after that, and I think it was a big jump.
Yeah, the best part of that game is that we stole their number 9 spot in the AP rankings. That game was crazy. I loved every moment of it.
Yeah, obviously the jump in the rankings was one of the biggest in program history, and that just goes to show how tough this Oklahoma team has really been. But now let's hear from Dylan Rivera on one of the reasons why the Baylor defense has been so dominant the past 2 years.
We've seen the Baylor basketball team dominate college basketball this season, sitting at a perfect 17-0, ranked 2nd overall in the AP poll, and outscoring opponents by nearly 15 points per game. But on the defensive end, last year's team was even more dominant. So let's rewind to the 2019-2020 season and break down the Bears' no-middle defense. The defense starts at the top. One of Baylor's stalwart perimeter defenders picks up early and forces the ball handler to one of the sidelines. In this case, it's Davion Mitchell. Mitchell forces the ball handler into the corner. And after the pass out and the switch, now Jared Butler's on him. You can see just how far Butler is shading him away from the middle. As the shot clock ticks down, the ball handler tries to penetrate and is forced to pull up for a tough mid-range jumper. Here on this play from the same game, Maceo Teague is on ball. Go ahead and freeze it. Teague sees he has a help defender to his left, and look how he dares the ball handler to try to drive. The Mountaineer makes the smart decision and passes out of the trap. Again, another tough look from mid-range. Baylor's also quick to crash the boards, and as a result, Culver gets an offensive foul. Now let's take it to a game against OU. Bieniemy sees the defender inviting him down the baseline and takes it. You can tell Bieniemy wants to find Iwuakor on the pick and roll, but Tristan Clark plays the passing lane perfectly. Here's where Bieniemy makes a critical error. He's in the corner, and he's picked up the ball. This is what Baylor wants. So what happens? It's a turnover. So what if you get into the lane and you get down the middle? Big 3-3 right there is Freddie Gillespie. He protects the paint to a T. Here it all comes together. Pick up early. Penetration. Ball into the middle. Gillespie's there. Offensive rebound taken into the corner. Takes the given lane. Tries to pass by Gillespie, and it's a turnover. Tech is quite literally not allowed to go in the middle. At this point, you may be asking, well, how do you beat it? If Baylor doesn't let you inside, kill them from outside. We take a look at the TCU-Baylor game from last spring. TCU shot 45% from deep and totally nullified the Bears' D. The Horned Frogs went on to get the upset victory over the second-ranked visitors. But this was just one of 4 losses on their record. The Baylor defense allowed only 60.1 points per, 5th best in the country. An opponent true shooting percentage that ranked 8th in the country and surely would have been destined for a deep run in the tournament. At least that's the no-middle defense. With that, I hand it back to you.
Coming up next on Game Day U, we're going to discuss the tiebreaker game for the number 2 teams in the Big 12, Oklahoma and West Virginia.
House screaming your name. But how often does an opportunity like that come around? Well, Bacoma's freshman basketball player Alessandro Rivera experienced it firsthand just a couple weeks ago.
They decided I want to help my team a little bit and try to score for the team.
And living with autism is no airball for Rivera, but instead a three-pointer.
He does this on a consistent basis, believe it or not. He can knock it down.
But behind the arc isn't the only place you'll find Rivera.
he's one of those guys where you're driving through Main Street and, there at the tennis courts, we have basketball goals set up, and you'll look over there and there's Alessandro over there shooting baskets, over by the tennis court.
And he's not just shooting the three, but shooting to get that gold star in the classroom.
I like school. I'm trying to get good grades. Thing I'm aiming for straight A's. That's my goal.
With a minute left in the fourth, it was nothing but net for number 0.
The guys are erupting on the bench, going crazy. I think they're more excited than even Alessandro is. They're all real good buddies with him, and you see the bench erupt, and you look up in the stands and see the fans' reactions. They're all erupting and going crazy, and so it was just a real good moment.
Rivera is no stranger to the game and can confirm that the key to success is loving what you do. For GamedayU, I'm Shannon Earhart.
Welcome back to GamedayU. After missing a series of games due to COVID-19 protocol, Oklahoma guard Alondis Williams is returning to the court. Elijah Harkless has stepped up and become a key player for the Sooners, but will Williams' return change the game?
I think that while Alondis Williams may not be the most impactful player on the team, I don't think you can go wrong with having him back. He has a lot of experience. He's in like a junior or senior upperclassman, so that means that he can build morale for this team in the locker room too when he's back. I think it's good to have options in the lineup so coach can say, oh, let's put Alondis in, let's take him out, whoever's playing better. Alondis also scores almost 50% of his shots. He makes about 8 points per game, and he assists players plenty. Overall, I don't think his experience hurts the Sooners. It just gives them more options.
Yes, I believe that Williams' return will change the way the playing time is distributed. Like you said, he can take Coach Kruger can take players out, take players in. We'll see what happens. So Harkless stepped up his scoring game a lot while Williams was out. Before Williams left, Harkless only had one double-digit scoring game. 2 of the 3 games Williams was absent, Harkless scored double digits, while Walker was able to play more minutes and gain valuable experience while Williams was out. This will help out the Sooners player rotation and give Coach Kruger some lineup versatility heading into the tournament. As a senior, like you said, Ashley, Alondis Williams brings some much needed leadership and experience. He isn't very impactful, but we always need a good leader on the court leading these guys like Davion Harvin.
Yeah, I'm going to have to completely agree. I think the more players we have available, the better. But it doesn't hurt us that much. I think we've seen these other players step up, which has been great for the Sooners. And I'm going to see kind of a Brady Manic type play coming back from Alondis Williams, his return. I mean, he's not been playing or training for 2 weeks, and that's going to throw anyone off their game. We've seen this happen time and time again throughout the season. Before contracting COVID, Brady Manic averaged 14.3 points through his first 9 games, but has averaged just 7.3 since. He's starting to find his rhythm, but it's not been an easy or fast transition for him. I see the same happening with Alondis Williams. I don't see him starting or having a lot of playtime for the Sooners, but it'll be good to have him back in the game, but I just don't see him performing like he did before COVID.
You can never complain about having more players available for this team, especially with the depth that they've had this season. And this weekend is the tiebreaker for the 2nd spot in the Big 12. Oklahoma is headed to Morgantown for a 12 o'clock tip-off. What can we expect from this game?
Oh, I'm so excited. What a big game this is that the Sooners have coming up. What's going to be key for Oklahoma is for them to play consistent in this game and for them to keep up on offense. So West Virginia is on a roll right now. They just beat number 7 Texas Tech earlier in the week. For OU to come out with a dub, they need to make shots to keep themselves in the game, especially 3-pointers, which is usually the Mountaineers' dagger on teams, as those 3-pointers. And OU actually handled the ball better when they beat West Virginia in their last matchup. OU had 42% shooting while West Virginia had 40%. So that offense is going to be so key. And while it's important to get those points, it's not getting tired and playing defense will also be important, preventing West Virginia from getting those shots down. If OU can handle the offense and the defense well, then this will be a great game to show that they're still a really good team and can beat those ranked opponents.
Yeah, one thing about West Virginia head coach Bob Huggins is that he always coaches competitive teams. This West Virginia team is scary. Their offense is stacked. They're coming off a red-hot win against Texas Tech. They were ranked number 7. West Virginia's three-point percentage in that game against Texas Tech was 50%. No one is going to beat West Virginia if they shoot 50% from the three. They're the second-ranked team in the Big 12. Guard Miles McBride is averaging 15.8 points per game. Forward Culver averages a double-double with 14 points and 10 rebounds per game. As a unit, West Virginia is second only to Baylor in three-point percentage. The Sooners will have to do a great job of defending the three-point line in order to win this game. Defense is going to win this game. If the Sooners can't stop West Virginia, they're not going to win.
Yeah, I have 3 words for this West Virginia team, and it is high scoring offense. They have been scoring like crazy lately, and I think the Sooners have a strong defense, but will it be strong enough? I'm not sure. Let's rewind and look at these past 2 games. West Virginia beat the Jayhawks 91-79. Deuce McBride scored a career high of 29 points, and Taz Sherman almost doubled his season average with 25 points, including 4 threes. In the last 10 minutes of the game, West Virginia outscored the Jayhawks by 7. And I know it's Kansas, but it was still a great game. And if that's not impressive, let's look at their game against Texas Tech. West Virginia beat Texas Tech 82-71 on Tuesday. McBride has 51 points from the 2 games. West Virginia's putting up a lot of points, and these teams don't know how to stop them. And if you thought that was enough, Sean McNeil had his first game in over a month and scored 26 points, a career high. I mean, these teams are going into the last minutes, and Texas is going up by 7 or 9. It's really crazy.
Yeah, I'm really scared for this game on Saturday. The Sooners better be ready. Their defense has to have it together or they're not going to win, especially since it's in Morgantown. They need to be ready.
In the last game against Tech, I mean, that was a defensive game for both teams, but if West Virginia's putting this offense forward, I just don't see how we'll manage.
Absolutely.
Coming up next on Game Day U, we're sending it to our remote team, Tyler DeLuca, Kemper Ball, and Amaya Ward, to hear about how the youth of OU's women's team can be used to their advantage. Welcome back to Game Day U. Before we argue Player of the Year and discuss the shift of the Blue Blood teams, here's Dylan Rivera with the top 5 plays from last Wednesday to this Wednesday.
Thanks, Elise. We start with NC State and Syracuse. Wolfpack big man Manny Bates is patrolling the lane, and when that ball goes up, he swats it like a housefly. Alan Griffin comes driving down from the free throw line, thinks he's got an easy little floater, but Bates says, "Not so fast, my friend." In women's basketball, Notre Dame and Louisville. Elizabeth Balogun gets the ball up top and goes to the rim. And one. That bucket is TUFF tough. Watch it again as Balogun would not be denied. The Lady Cards pick up another victory, 71-65 over the Irish. Number 1 versus number 2, UConn and South Carolina. Get used to this name, ladies and gentlemen. Paige Beckers driving inside. 1-2, layup's good. She doesn't use US dollars. She makes her money in euros. Beckers finishes with 31 of the Huskies' 63 on the night. A Big 12 matchup, West Virginia and Texas Tech. Shot goes up and Terrence Shannon Jr. comes soaring in for the putback jam. Oh, mama. He just about ripped the rim off. Tech gets the top 5 play, but West Virginia gets the road win, 82-71. And at number 1, the Bulldogs of Georgia at Tennessee. Keon Johnson off the give and go on his head. Hanging on the rim just to rub it in a little bit. Catch, bounce, facial. That's it from me, Elise. Back over to you.
Thanks, Dylan. Since he announced his return for his senior season, all eyes have been locked on Iowa's forward Luka Garza. He's averaging a nation's best 25.5 points and has scored at least 16 points in every game this season. He's the heavy favorite for Player of the Year, but do you think he's locked in or is someone else being overlooked?
I definitely think Luka Garza is a lock for Player of the Year. The only other player that came to mind was Jared Butler, but the stats just do not compare. While Iowa, the team Luka Garza plays for, obviously, may not be the best team in college basketball, they're not like a Baylor or a Gonzaga, but I think that overall Luka Garza is the best player. His stature is unlike anyone else, giving him that special advantage and ability to make shots and be elite. Garza averages 25 points per game and 484 points in total this season. And on top of that, he has 8 rebounds per game. Those stats are absolutely incredible, and I think that it's going to be really hard to compete with him.
Well, you're right. Luka Garza, he's a stud. He's the best, blah, blah, blah. But I'm always the one who's a fan of the underdog. So I'm going with my guy, the guard from Baylor, Jared Butler. Butler is averaging 17 points per game, and his field goal percentage is 49.3%, which is just insane. In my opinion, he is the best player on the best team in the country. Apologies to Gonzaga and Luka Garza. In the Big 12, Butler's in the top 4 in scoring, field goal percentage, steals, and assists. Losing Butler would all but destroy Baylor's chances of winning a national championship. Butler's the glue in this lineup. I don't know. I just really like Jared Butler. What can I say?
He's glue for Baylor for sure, but like I said, the stats just don't compare.
The season's not over yet.
That's true.
The season's not over yet.
But it's not over for Garza.
He can step it up. We'll see.
So. Garza is going to keep scoring. Garza has almost double the amount of points than Butler does on the total season.
I think he can still make a case for himself.
My guy's going to keep scoring.
Okay, well, I think you're both wrong. I'm going to have to say the junior guard from Illinois, Ayo Dosunmu. Dosunmu is Illinois' leading scorer at 21.2 points per game on 48.6% shooting with 6.4 rebounds per game. No player in the last 15 years has put together a stat line like this for the entire season. Dosunmu dominated Illinois last week against Wisconsin when they beat the ranked Badgers 75-60. During that game, Dosunmu put up 21 points, 12 rebounds, 12 assists, becoming the first high major player to record a triple-double against Division I competition this season. He had his first triple-double, the first one of the season. He's the third player with a 20 points plus triple-double against a ranked team in the past 3 years in all of Division I, and he's also the first player to do it against a ranked Big Ten opponent since 1999. If this isn't talent, I don't know what is, and he deserves this award.
So you think he's better than Jared Butler?
I do.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you who's talent, Luka Garza.
What do you think?
He got it all.
What do you think that Baylor's postponement of these games is going to look like for Jared Butler?
You know, I really hope it's going to help my guy out. So that having that time to kind of regroup, think, rest the muscles, rest the body. Hopefully he's been in the gym, staying fit and everything. But I think it'll be good for him to get his mind right so he can go and compete against these Big 12 opponents. We were supposed to play them, and I was really looking forward to that matchup. So hopefully that happens again soon because I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree. I think them not playing, them not being in the game, he's going to lose the mindset, lose everything. And I just don't think Baylor's going to come back as this number 2 team that everyone thinks they're going to be.
Ooh, girl. We'll see, because I think this is going to be great not only for Butler but for this Baylor team. I don't even think they need to keep the momentum riding because they are just that talented. They are just that good. They are better than Gonzaga in my opinion, but I guess we'll get to that later. But
we'll see in the NCAA tournament.
We'll see, baby. I'm ready. I'm ready.
A hot topic this season has been how the blue blood programs are not performing at their usual speed. In fact, this past week on Monday was the first time since December of 1961 that UCLA, Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Kansas were all unranked. With that being said, is this a shift of the programs? Should we expect to see teams like Villanova, UVA, Gonzaga, and Baylor to reign supreme, or do you think it's just a down year and they're going to bounce back?
I think that this is a down year for the Blue Bloods, but I don't think overall there's going to be some crazy shift and these new teams are going to take over totally. But yeah, so I don't think these teams are going anywhere. I think that right now Kentucky, KU, North Carolina, and Duke have extremely inexperienced rosters. They're mostly comprised of freshmen and sophomores. None of these teams have a player who is the guy either, who is making the shots for them and really just giving them these wins like a Zion Williamson or Emmanuel Quickley. What's hurt these teams mostly is the one and done player. When they recruit the one guy who comes the star for 1 year, plays, and then he goes off to the NBA. These teams, these programs, they haven't been able to keep up, and they haven't gotten the next rising player. And so this cycle has come to a stop here, and we'll have to see if I think that they will get the next guy, but we'll just have to, see who it's going to be and when these teams, get it going.
Yeah. I think that these blue blood programs are going to bounce back eventually, but these new bloods, as I like to call them, Villanova, Virginia, Gonzaga, and Baylor, are here to stay. Each of these teams is currently ranked in the top 10. Remember in 2016 how shocked everybody was that Villanova beat UNC? Remember that? Villanova and Virginia have won 3 out of the last 5 championships. Gonzaga and Baylor are the top 2 teams in the country. Gonzaga is leading the nation in scoring at 93 points per game. That is insane. That is so good for college basketball, while beating their opponent by an average of 24 points. Baylor is 4th in the nation in scoring. They also currently reside number 1 in ESPN's Power Index ranking. These new bloods are really making a name for themselves. When the blue bloods bounce back, these new bloods will be ready to compete against them. They want to prove that they're better than Duke. I'm just saying, so we'll see. I think it'll be great, yeah, especially because Baylor's going to keep going, and so is UVA. So I'm really excited to see how they compete against these blue bloods because they're here to stay.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love seeing these new teams step up, and I'm enjoying the break from the Blue Bloods this year. Blue Bloods, not the year, neither is the color blue, clearly. Monday was the first time in 60 years that neither of these teams have been ranked. And the biggest game coming out of North Carolina this season has been when East Carolina upset number 5 Houston. All teams have their off year, so it just happens it's Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, and Kansas at the same time. And who hasn't enjoyed watching these teams like Alabama and Oklahoma step up? And these teams are just lacking the talent, like you said, Ashley, and I see them coming back, but talent comes and goes, and I see they'll be back too soon.
Yeah, you know what? This is the first year since 1961 that a blue blood has not been ranked in the top 25. So
I think it's kind of fun to see, like y'all said, new teams step up, but I definitely think that they will be back.
Coming up next on GamedayU, we're sending it to our remote team, Tyler DeLuca, Kemper Ball, and Amaya Ward, to hear about how the youth of OU's women team can be used to their advantage.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Game Day U. I'm Tyler DeLuca here with Kemper Ball and Amaya Ward. How are you two doing today?
Doing great.
I'm good. How are you?
Excited
I'm doing
to be on the girls'
fantastic. Yeah, we're glad to have you over here. We have plenty to talk about both on the OU and national landscape. But first, let's send it over to OU head coach Sherry Cole to hear her thoughts.
This group has figured out how to unite, how to bring out the best in each other, and how to have a great time in spite of everything. You know, on the top of our locker room wall is a quote from Van Gogh, and it says, "In spite of everything, yes, let's." And that's kind of how this team plays.
All right, so we just heard from Sooners head coach Sherry Cole about her thoughts. Amaya, what was your biggest takeaway from the game against Iowa State?
My biggest takeaway from the game against Iowa State was that the Sooners played a really good defense. They had really good ball movement around the perimeter. I think that Iowa State was so set on stopping Taylor Robertson due to how well she performed against them last game that they weren't expecting Maddie and Gabby to play the game that they did and pull the shots that they did. I think that our ball movement was really well. We facilitated screens really well. We were able to attack the paint. And I thought that the Sooners played a really good game overall.
For me, I really liked the next man up aspect of this game for the Sooners. It's something we've seen a lot on the men's side for Oklahoma this year. You know, when Brady Manick is out with COVID or Austin Reeves isn't having a good game, other guys have been able to step up. And that's kind of what we saw against Iowa State for the women. Taylor Robertson, the usual deep threat machine for OU, was just off her game. 1 for 14 from the field, 0 of 9 from 3. Really just numbers that you're not used to seeing from her. But the team stepped up and they filled that missing productivity without her. Obviously, Maddie Williams with the 27 and 13 was huge, but Gabby Gregory provided some big shots late, and so did Todd. It was a really impressive team win, and that's what you like to see, especially going forward in a tournament play.
Yeah, you mentioned the 0 of 9 shooting from Taylor Robertson. And that's going to be my biggest takeaway from this game. On both sides of it is three-point shooting. First, I'm going to start off with the Cyclones and the good that the defense played against their three-point shooting because they only shot 9 for 35 for 26% from the perimeter. And that tells me a couple things. One, that's a lot of empty possessions because they did a fairly good job of keeping them off the offensive board. So that means they're not getting second chance points, and those are shots that are going to be obviously not your highest percentage shot. And you're making them stay out of the paint. You know, we've talked over and over about the lack of size that the Sooners have this season. But when you're able to keep them at the paint and force them to shoot three-point shots, and especially at that rate, you're going to take that 10 out of 10 times if you are the Sooners. And now looking at the OU side of shooting, you know, you touched on it, 0 of 9 for Taylor Robertson. That's not the Sooners standard that we are used to by any means, especially this season. But they proved me wrong. Last week I said that OU lives and dies by the three, and they were absolutely not living by it last game, but they were able to still make it out with a win and tough it out in a dogfight. And that really impressed me because, and like I said, I'll eat my words on that, they were not dying by the three as much as I thought that they might. And they pulled it out, a win, and that really surprised me. So looking kind of, you know, at the roster as a whole right now, what does the youth of OU, how does that help OU, Amaya?
I think the youth benefits OU in a lot of great ways. I think that they have Heavenly Greer, who's a 6'3" freshman that brings the height that they don't have right now, but they will within the next 3 years. They'll have, you know, that tall post player in the paint. I also think that players like Nevaeh Tott and Gabby Gregory, like they are both such team players, and they have really stepped it up this season. I mean, Nevaeh Tott is a freshman, and she has had to play probably more than she thought she was going to be playing, you know, due to limited numbers, you know. And so I think that when Robertson and Williams do leave, I think that we have a great foundation already building with girls who already have great skills that will only improve.
I think, for me, if you look at some of the other teams across the country, and especially on the men's side, you can start to fall in love with the concept of the freshman phenom. But there's an old quote from Al McGuire, the old Marquette basketball coach who won a national championship there, that said, the best thing about freshmen is that they turn into sophomores. Now, Coach Calipari or Coach Krzyzewski might not know what that means because they don't know that players are allowed to stay longer than 1 year. But in women's college basketball, that's even more important where they're more likely to stay. If we see players like Todd and Skylar Vaughn and Heavenly Thompson develop in Sherry Cole's system and get more comfortable, we're going to see a really impressive squad here in a few years. And one of the most important things about a freshman is the leadership that they have on the team. I'm going to make another comp to the OU men's team. It is absolutely benefiting guys like Devion Harmon to have senior leadership on that team, like Austin Reeves and Brady Manick. And it's the same situation for these OU women freshmen to have people like Maddie Williams and Taylor Robertson, who are great players, but above all, they are great leaders, showing them the right way to do things, the right way to prepare, and the right way to go forward over the next few years of their career.
Yeah, and you talked about the leadership there, and I think the biggest key right now for the youth is establishing the culture for this OU program. We're far away from the days of the Paris twins, we're at the height. So we have a lot of work to do as a program, and I think that this is where it can start. OU has faced more adversity than most teams have, really, throughout this entire season, having the Sooner Six, fighting and clawing their way into games and winning games. Even with that, having your leaders like Taylor Robertson playing 40 minutes a game, that sets such a high standard for hard work and effort within this program that hopefully, these players here can build off of, and Sherry Cole can build off for future recruiting classes to get OU back to its peak. And now, let's kind of look ahead, to the next game. Amaya, what is your biggest key to the game against West Virginia?
Okay, so my biggest key is the girls are definitely going to have to try to stop number 12, Esmery Martinez. She is a 6'2" sophomore who's averaging 11 rebounds per game. Last time we saw Martinez, she had 11 rebounds and 18 points. I think that offensive-wise, we are going to have to draw our fouls from her, and they are going to have to get to the free throw line. In my opinion, free throws win games, and that will help them. Defensive-wise, they are going to have to stay in a 2-3 matchup and have their hands up and try to guard her as good as they can without fouling her and taking her to the free throw line. And I just think that we are going to definitely have to buckle down because West Virginia has the height that we do not have.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely going to be an interesting size matchup for the Sooners. But what I want to see is I just want to see them right the ship a little bit. We saw them get a win over at Iowa State when they weren't necessarily playing their best. Now I would like to see them correct some of those mistakes and see what they can do at full strength. Taylor Robertson, I would be willing to bet that she's not going to have another 0 of 9 3-point shooting night. I'd be willing to bet that won't happen again this season. So if she can get back on track and Maddie Williams can have a good game, I would love to see what this team is capable of when they're all clicking and they're firing on all cylinders. And hopefully we can see that against West Virginia.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is also a defensive matchup, but I'm going to go to the perimeter with Kaiser Gondrzak of West Virginia. She is usually their win condition. If you're seeing her put up points on the box score, more than likely that final score is going to be in favor of the Mountaineers. Against Texas, both times she had 20 points. Against Tennessee, she had 27. Both very, very solid teams, and they won those games. But then you look at the other really good competition that they've gone against, Baylor. She topped 4 for 16 and 9 points, and they lost by 20. If you're able to take her out of the game and force her to pass the ball and not let her get on those high-scoring numbers, you're able to possibly turn this into a shootout, which I think OU would honestly prefer instead of another dogfight at this point. So now let's look kind of more at the national landscape. Amaya, if you have to pick right now, who is leaving San Antonio as the national champions?
I'm going with Louisville. I think that they have dominated all season. They're ranked number 3 in the top 10. They've been ranked in the AP top 25 all season. They're led by All-America Dana Evans, who's averaging 26 points over these last 2 weeks. They have such a versatile squad with at least 4 of their players averaging double digits every game. Most of the games against Louisville has been ending with around 82 points. Right there, it's going to be a hard scoring game, a hard fight to win. Scoring the 82 points, I think that they definitely are going to give the teams a run for their money.
I'm going with about as boring a pick as you can go because I'm playing the statistics. I'm not going to bet against UConn. Why would I ever bet against UConn in women's college basketball, especially when they've got a superstar on their team like Paige Beckers. Paige Beckers has come in and dominated the women's college basketball scene as a freshman. She scored over 30 points in her last 3 games, a feat that no other UConn player has ever done. And when we look at the UConn alumni, we are talking about several MVPs in the league right now. I think she's going to be the best player on the floor in any matchup she's in. I like UConn to bring home the championship.
Yeah, my family knows exactly who I'm going to pick here. I would get killed if I did otherwise. Give me South Carolina, and I know they just lost to UConn, But it went to overtime, and both their guards, Zia Cook and Destiny Henderson, did not have a very efficient game, and that is their X factor for how far they can go. We know all about Aaliyah Boston. She is an absolute menace in the paint. The sophomore is averaging a double-double, 15 and 12. I mean, she's been absolutely disgusting throughout this entire season. But if those guards can spread the floor for her, hit some perimeter shots, that is going to open up everything for South Carolina and allow them to take advantage of the size. Like against UConn, they weren't really able to take advantage of the size difference that they had with Aaliyah Boston and the defensive presence that she can bring into the paint against teams like UConn that lack that paint presence like an Aaliyah Boston. So if those guards can do it, then I absolutely think South Carolina is going to win it all. Okay, guys, so we have plenty of contenders over here on the women's side, but let's go back to the studio team and hear about the men's contenders. Stick around.
Welcome back to Game Day U. It's our last segment of the show, and that means it's time for Pick'em. But first, Ashley, which matchup is your game to watch this week?
This week, my game to watch is OU versus Texas. Currently in the rankings, this will be number 12 versus number 13. And I think with the way this game went last time, OU won by 1 point. It's going to be a really fun matchup to watch again. Especially if OU loses to West Virginia, this will be another chance for them to prove themselves and show that they can beat a really good ranked team, especially in conference. And it's also a great rivalry game.
Yeah, Ashley, I totally agree. This is going to be a really good game, especially since Texas has been a little shaky lately. They've kind of been losing, and nobody's been expecting that. So I really think the Sooners can come out and beat them. So hopefully they beat West Virginia and they can carry that momentum and beat Texas. But we have to see if they're ready. So my upset pick is LSU upsetting Tennessee. LSU can pull off this home upset, okay? Tennessee's been a little shaky on the road lately. LSU's going to come in hungry to win after they just lost to Alabama. Terrible, terrible loss. So they're hungry to win, and they think that they can beat home. They can beat Tennessee at home.
Well, my game to watch this week will have to be also in the SEC, and it'll be Arkansas and Missouri. Arkansas wants to come back and beat Missouri when they lost last time, and the Razorbacks are ready for this redemption. After stumbling to a loss in Oklahoma State January 30th, Arkansas seems to have regained its footing. The Razorbacks are shooting almost best in the nation. They're 7th overall with 82.7 points per game. They're 3rd in the nation with 66.2 field goal attempts per game. So I think this is going to be a good game between Mizzou and Arkansas.
I hope so. Arkansas is decent this year, so maybe they can pull the upset on Mizzou. It'll be fun.
Well, next up, which top team do you think is going to face an upset?
Well, my upset pick is Louisville over number 18, Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is a ranked team, but I think they do have the possibility to be taken down because they don't have a super strong schedule and they do have 4 losses. They are lower on that ranked end of the top 25. So I think Louisville does have the tools and the record to take down Virginia Tech.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to stick with my new bloods because they play each other this week. Virginia versus UNC. Whoops, one of my blue bloods. Sorry, getting a little bit confused, but I'm sticking with UNC versus Virginia. UNC just beat Duke, so they're feeling really confident like they can beat this number 9 Virginia team. Virginia will want to prove that they're better than the blue bloods, so hopefully they can prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, that's going to be my upset for this week. I mean, never count Carolina out. And yes, they did come off the high against Duke, but they had to cancel their game against Miami on Monday because players were partying without wearing masks. So we'll see if they'll play this game. But I think Carolina stands a chance. I would never count Carolina out.
I think Virginia could do it. They're red hot right now. They're ranked number 9. They're really making a name for themselves right now. They're proving to everybody that they're a good team. They can win. They are definitely an NCAA tournament contender. So we'll have to see. But I really think West Virginia can pull it off.
We talked earlier in the show about how Virginia could be one of the future teams to really take over the basketball world. And so what do you guys think about that? I know earlier a lot of you said that the blue blood teams will make a comeback, but do you think that Virginia has a chance to be a team that is in the future of college basketball?
Oh, I think they've already proven themselves to be super, good these past few seasons. I mean, it was just a couple seasons ago that they won the national championship. So Virginia, they're definitely a great basketball team. And they've proven that. And we all know that ACC is such a strong basketball conference, so it's nice seeing these new teams like Virginia rather than it constantly being the Duke and Carolina teams playing. And Clemson's even had a pretty good season so far. Yeah.
Well, the Missouri Valley Conference has one of its biggest games in the last 6 years this weekend. Number 22 Loyola is taking on Drake to fight for first in the conference and to fight for some national recognition. Who are you picking, Ashley?
Well, Drake was undefeated until they had that loss to Valparaiso, but I think that they will come back and they will beat this Loyola Chicago team. Drake has the better record than Loyola Chicago, and I think overall they're just the better team.
They are the better team. They're way more talented, and like you said, they want to get back on track after having their 18-game winning streak broke.
They were just ranked, so this is a big deal for a small school like that. So.
It really is. They're going to come off with the win. I believe it. They're a really great team.
Yeah, I don't think Drake's been getting enough credit this year. I mean, they were ranked 25 and then they lost one game and off again. I think they're good. When the Bulldogs played last week, they only shot 36.5% from the floor, which is their worst of the season. And there were 2 of 15 from behind the arc, but I think that was just a fluke. I think they are a good team. They're 20th in the nation with 80 points per game and 49.8% shooting from the floor, 9th best overall. I think they're a great team, and I think the loss was just a fluke, and I think they're going to win this game.
Villanova takes on Creighton on Saturday. Who do you think comes out on top?
Well, Villanova is number 5, so I am definitely taking them over Creighton, although they're ranked 2. But I think that Villanova's just got more momentum and quality wins, and they're traditionally kind of like one of those new bloods, a great basketball team. So I've got Villanova over Creighton, and I don't think they'll be an upset.
Nope, I like Creighton. I like the home underdog, and I'm going with them. This is a great opportunity for them to boost their March Madness tournament seed. I really think that they can do it. So we'll see. I'm not trying to knock Villanova. I really like them. Like you said, they're ranked number 5, but
Nova's too good.
I think, we'll see. I think Creighton could really pull off this upset. I'm really, really excited. So we'll see what happens. What do you think, Haley?
I'm going to have to go with Villanova. Villanova has won 5 games in a row, including an 88-62 blowout victory over DePaul. I think Villanova is just one of those good teams that have been kind of up there in the leaderboards recently, and I don't see them wanting to get any lower than they are right now.
You guys don't like an underdog. You guys don't like an upset. Okay, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, if you don't have plans or are snowed in, there's a Big Ten showdown this Valentine's Day with Michigan and Wisconsin. Ashley, who's taking this one?
Well, I'm from Madison, but I'm taking Michigan. I think that Wisconsin struggled this season a little bit. They've had some iffy losses, so I think that this is a super strong Michigan team too. Even though the game will be at the Kohl Center, I think that Wisconsin also makes really poor decisions with their shots oftentimes in games, so I am taking Michigan.
Yes, Wisconsin, sloppy mistakes, sloppy mess-ups, and they just can't do that. Michigan's ranked number 3. I think they're an older team. They're way more experienced, and I think they're going to take them. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, Michigan has been out for over 2 weeks. Last month, all facilities were closed. Every coach, staff, and player was required to quarantine for 14 days. I don't see them doing well after not playing, not having these past 3 games against Indiana, Northwestern, and Illinois. So I don't see it being a blowout like everyone might think it is. I think Wisconsin has the chance. They beat Nebraska last night. They have had this win-loss pattern, which I think kind of has gotten to them. So hopefully they can turn this pattern around and win again.
I think it will help Wisconsin that they are at home, but I can also see where you're going with Michigan when you say that, they've been not practicing and playing, so that could hurt them, and I think it will prevent it from being a blowout, but I still think Michigan will come out with
I don't know.
win.
Michigan's more talented.
I mean, 14 days without playing is going to take a toll on any team.
I think it will take a toll, but we'll have to see.
I don't see them ranked at 3, but I guess we'll have to see on Sunday if they play.
Yeah.
And to wrap things up, can Oklahoma seal the deal for second in the Big 12, or are the Mountaineers going to use the home advantage to claim their spot?
Well, I'm holding on to hope, even though this West Virginia team looks super strong, and I'm saying Boomer Sooner. I think that this week off is really going to help OU. They've been able to rest up, and hopefully they have a fire underneath them after losing to Texas Tech, and they were on that great winning streak of beating ranked teams. And West Virginia, I'm hoping that they'll be worn out after beating KU and Texas Tech, but it is in Morgantown, so it will be a hard win, but it would be so amazing if OU could come out with the dub. So I'm I'm picking OU.
I really wish that I could say OU is going to win this game. I really, truly do. But after they beat Texas Tech, I just don't think Oklahoma's capable. That win was huge for West Virginia. They're going to carry that momentum, and I really think that they're going to beat us good. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you, Carly. I think the manner in which West Virginia's been playing lately is just far better than how OU's been playing. I mean, the game against Tech was a perfect show of that. Virginia has been dominant in scoring, and OU's not been scoring a lot. We've been great on the defense, but I think it's going to be a matchup between a great offensive team and a great defensive team. Like I said, McBride and Derek Culver create one of the best guard big duos in college basketball. McBride has over 51 points with his 2 last games. Against Kansas, Taz Sherman nearly doubled his season average with 25 points in a game. In the game against Tech, Sean McNeil scored a career high of 26 points, and West Virginia has outscored both teams by 7 and 9 in the last 10 minutes of the game. And if we know anything from the past games OU's played, it's been close at the end. So, I mean, if it comes to that, West Virginia is going to take the game no matter what.
Absolutely, especially it being in Morgantown. There's no way that they're going to lose at home against Oklahoma.
No way. No way. I think that it's possible OU will, they've been so much positive recognition around this Sooners team, and I think that they're going to want to get back and prove themselves, especially after a close loss to Texas Tech. We've played so well this season. I don't think we're going to let it, I don't think the Sooners are going to let themselves fall.
Well, we saw Austin Reeves return versus Iowa State last week. Do you think that his return is going to help the Sooners in Morgantown?
Oh, absolutely. I am hopeful that he won't have a sudden Brady Manic slump after COVID or anything, but I think that it's definitely going to help. He's one of he's one of OU's best players, so.
What do you guys think?
Yeah. Austin Reeves is
positive.
definitely one of our go-to guys, but we saw how great we played without Austin Reeves. So, I mean, we'll see. I think he'll definitely help, but I mean, I don't know how much he'll do.
You're refuting your own point, Carly.
I don't know, because I do get what you're saying, but West Virginia is just overall the better team, more powerful team.
I get it.
I don't know. I'm not trying to knock the Sooners, but overall, when you're comparing the two, West Virginia is better.
It's going to be a great game.
I think we need Austin Reeves at his prime, and we need Davion Harmon at his prime, and the two of them will extremely help us. Without both of them, I don't think we could have the high-scoring offense that we need. We need Elijah Harkless on the defense, and we just need to get points, rebounds, offense, defense, rebounds. We need Brady Manic to start being able to shoot threes. I mean, we just need everything to come together that hasn't been coming together these past couple of weeks if we want to stand a chance against West Virginia, because everything has been coming together for them.
We're talking about an Oklahoma team, though, with Williams, Harkless, Harmon, Manic, Reeves. You're telling me that none of those guys are going to be able to come together to be a team like West Virginia?
We need to play better than we did against Iowa State, that's for sure.
We need to play better defense,
that's true.
That's for sure, because their offense is so stacked. We have to have defense to stop them. If our defense is sloppy, we are going to lose, bottom line.
It makes me think, too, that, when you play a team like Iowa State, who's, the worst in the Big 12, that you kind of are just I don't have to, put it all in for this game. So I think that OU will hopefully play better.
Well, thank you guys for watching Game Day U live from Studio D at the University of Oklahoma. We'll be here next week, same time, same place. On behalf of Ashley Vandevelde, Carly Murray, Kaylee Tinglestad, and everyone behind the scenes, I'm Elise Jones. Have a good night.